RealTalkTwinCities.com. I'm Eric Pirius with Bell Mortgage, along with Donna and Cheryl of Coldwell Banker Burnet, and Uriah of Executive Title. He's Director of Operations there. He's sharing with us some of the interesting aspects of what title companies mean to you, what title insurance means to you, and we just covered the fact that you need to get an owner's title insurance policy and a lender's title insurance policy. I happen to know that the lender's portion of that policy covers the lender in case they have to take the home back and ensures the title is clean for the lender, which is our collateral on the loan, so you have to have that. But the owner's policy is optional.
Correct.
But I'm hearing that we should get it because of all the reasons you mentioned. A lien pops up, a mortgage wasn't recorded properly, there was a foreclosure, divorce, maybe an ex-spouse or an heir can come back and make claims against the property. Is that right, Uriah?
Absolutely, and that's why we always recommend that they get purchased at the closing table. You know, the funny thing is I get the question a lot, you know, if this is an optional policy, then why should I buy it? If you're doing your job, everything should be cleared up, and I should be able to own the property. And I always just remind people, there's a lot of things that could come up that today I couldn't possibly know about. Let's say that, you know, in a situation that there was a prior owner, or an undisclosed or prior mortgage or lien that was on the title that maybe somebody hadn't recorded before the transfer of title. That could pop up after the fact, at which time that individual would be forced again to defend themselves in court like we talked about.
So are you saying that you could conceivably end up with two mortgages on your property, one of which isn't yours?
You know, the funny thing is you conceivably could end up with multiple mortgages, multiple liens, and a prior owner coming back to say that they still have ownership interest in the property as well.
And if you don't have title insurance?
You're left to fight for yourself on that deal.
And if you do have title insurance?
That's when you have representation given to you by the person who actually helped you clear that title.
So, hey guys, this came up, Uriah, here, you handle it, and let me know when it's done.
Correct. It's a little more complicated than that. I wish it was that easy. I mean, in life, we all wish things were that easy, but you know, there's some participation that needs to happen. But at that point, yeah, it's nominal.
And the one thing that I see is if there's title insurance on a property and there is a title issue, our buyers and sellers can typically still close, because there's an indemnification that takes place by the title company. And if there isn't any title insurance on a property, I've had 2 closings in the last several months where an attorney actually had to come in, calculate how much money it was going to cost to clear up the title issue. The seller had to deposit that money into an escrow account. Then the attorney indemnified the title company so we could go through with the closing. And I just recently had another one where a seller purchased property from a neighbor like back in 1987, and it wasn't recorded properly. So the county examiner just wrote on the title, before the property can be conveyed, there has to be a directive from the county examiner. Well, that's a 6-month process in the courts.
There are a lot of things that can happen. I mean, I'll go back to that foreclosure where there were double foreclosures. In that situation, the person who originally had bought the property, you know, in the first foreclosure did get an owner's policy. But the funny thing was that they didn't keep the owner's policy after they had purchased it. So our job was to find out who had issued the owner's policy, to make a claim against it, so we could, in effect, get indemnification. Which, when you say indemnification, that's just in essence stating that there's a prior title company who's insured this property against prior defects, and they're saying that, yes, we have this insured, it is covered through our policy, and your person can transfer title.
Yeah, you know, the other thing too, as real estate agents, and I'm assuming the buyer and the seller gets copies of the title commitment prior to closing, but it's really important that people look at those, because there's typically exceptions or exclusions from the title work. And I know one sale that I was involved with, the buyer was buying a property because of lakeshore, and specifically sand beach on the water. But the title commitment specifically said the beach was excluded. And so we wound up having to go back and get a survey and find out, and ultimately the buyer didn't buy because that was the rationale for the purchase.
And again, with that, you know, the importance of working with a trained, experienced professional, especially in the real estate side of things and the mortgage side of things, is so that you can catch these things early, make sure that you're getting what you're paying for.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of people that just don't read anything and they close, and later on they find out that they didn't really get what they wanted, and here it was in writing in front of them the whole time.
Correct.
Very interesting. So, what is it, Paul? Just title insurance is what? Like, here we go, you know, it's the tough part. Well, how much is it? You know,
So
is
the
it,
funny thing again is with the lender's policy versus an owner's policy, when you purchase a home with a mortgage, you're required to cover the lender's
Right.
interest. That's what they do. So
Right.
the lender's policy then is required. And those typically cost 3 times as much as an owner's policy. It might, just to ballpark it that way. It's based on the purchase price of the property
Sure.
all the time. And the difference between the actual purchase price of the property and the mortgage is typically what your owner's policy is based on. That's why it's a smaller dollar amount.
And one of the things that we always know in advance when, as real estate agents, we're working with our clients, they've already been approved by Eric, the loan guy,
Right.
Bell Mortgage. And so there's a good faith estimate that is
Right.
completed prior to us going to look for a home. And listed on the good faith estimate is also the title insurance. So there's no surprises here. You're gonna know about this long before you get to the closing. And of course, we're gonna talk about, should we be asking the seller to pay the closing costs for you? So you may not even have to pay this or worry about it, but you'll know
Right.
that you're insured and your lender is insured.
So you're basically talking about several $100s compared to hiring an attorney after the fact if
Which
there's
would
an
be-
issue for several $1,000s.
Absolutely, and the most important part to remember is, I mean, while the cost varies depending on the purchase price of the property, you only have to pay for it once, and it covers you for the entire life that you own that property.
Right.
So I always tell people, you know, you're insuring your car for thousands of dollars a year, and while you're driving it around, that's not the most important purchase you're ever making. Your home typically is.
Right, and what you are insuring as a home buyer is your equity. So you start out and you might only have 3% equity, but as time goes on, that increases. So the value of your insurance actually increases with time as well.
And the price doesn't go up.
Right, it's already paid for.
wow. I never thought we'd end up extolling the virtues of title insurance. Like we're,
Yeah, it's really a pretty dull subject, but it is so important.
Yeah, it is important, and I think it's just kind of a black box for people. You know, I run into that when I'm giving the good faith estimates you talk about. You know, well, I mean, the first thing people do is they start looking at stuff and like, you know, which one of these fees can we get rid of? And you know, and this says it's optional. Well, I don't want that. So then we have the conversation. Well, you know, are you sure? And you did mention it's a one-time fee. It's upfront, and it is, you know, in the low hundreds of dollars typically for your average transaction, and that it can't go up like healthcare, for example.
Right.
You know, you're not going to get a note from your provider next year saying, "Hey, your title insurance is going up 7.2%."
Yeah, exactly.
Should have voted for someone else.
And the alternative to title insurance is getting an attorney's opinion. And I work with quite a few real estate attorneys, and the one thing that I find all the time in talking to them is they say it's cheaper to get title insurance and
Right.
work with a
Yes,
title
they do.
company than it is for them to go through and research the title, give their opinion, and then yet they're at risk.
Correct.
So.
And Uriah, I know, happen to know this from personal experience, but you know, and Cheryl mentioned refinances. When we're doing a refinance, you actually, either you or one of your staff goes to the folks' home and closes, say, you know, 5:30 after work at their convenience. Isn't that right?
Correct. You know, we've made it very convenient over the years. I always, you know, like I've told you time and time again, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is kind of the hours that I work. I travel for a living. I put on about 40,000 miles a year to my car, which isn't fun, but, you know, is necessary to make sure that all of our clients are taken care of properly. And I can never really understand why they want to come in to do the refinance to our office, which I'm more than happy to have them. You know, purchases are a little different. They need to happen within an office.
Right.
But,
And you also do mailaways though too, don't you?
absolutely. We, like I said up front, you know, we try and take care of our clients in the best way possible, and, you know, respecting their time and space. is sometimes the best way we can do that.
So, and then you close at somebody's house at 6 and drive back home to, where do you live, Uriah?
I live out in Chaska myself.
In Chaska. Cheryl, is Chaska on our 10 neighborhoods we love list?
Boy, I'm really searching here, and I'm hoping it is, but no,
Well,
not here.
we'll give Uriah some space to put a little plug in it. We are going to talk about the 10 neighborhoods we love. I know that downtown Minneapolis is one of them, St. Paul.
And we're gonna help Uriah move to one of the neighborhoods that we love.
That's
I'm looking
right.
forward to it.
Grand Avenue. What else we got there, Cheryl?
We have downtown Minneapolis, Lower Town, Uptown, Northeast
Don't
Minneapolis.
give it all away, come on.
Okay, we'll wait until we get back. But in the meantime, if you have missed any of our previous shows, you want to get in touch with any of our great local expert guests, reach out to us, realtalktwincities.com, or call 612-735-0553.